Welcome to part 3 of our series on Aksumite history. In today's video, we will explore the life and achievements of Emperors Ezana and Saizana, who ruled the Aksumite Empire from around 320 AD to 350 AD. This documentary is divided into 6 main sections. Firstly, we will discuss the upbringing of these two emperors. Then in the next 3 sections we will examine the significant rebellions these emperors faced during their reign, first in the Beja territories, then in the Agaws region, and finally in the Afan territory. The 5th section will cover their adoption of Christianity, followed by the final section, which delves into their most extensive military campaign against the Kushites and Nubians to the northwest. For more in-depth information on any of these sections, please click the link in the bio to access the article related to this video, or visit our website at habeshahistory.com, where you can find the corresponding article. This article is complete with sources and references to primary materials. I hope you find this documentary informative. Section 1, Childhood of Ezana and Saizana. Around 300 AD, during the reign of Emperor Ezana, Queen Sophia gave birth to twin sons, Ezana and Saizana. According to tradition, Queen Sophia had struggled with fertility, a challenge that threatened the line of succession and stirred unrest within the empire. Following their birth, the twins were christened and placed under the care of a church in Aksum, where they received protection and guidance. Sadly, their father, Emperor Ezana, passed away during their childhood, leaving the family without a father. Under the mentorship of Frumentius, a priest from Tyre, modern-day Lebanon, whom we discussed in the previous video, both boys grew into learned men and were eventually crowned as joint emperors. However, the decision to have 2 emperors simultaneously led to controversy within the royal court. Therefore, as we will see later in the video, Ezana was tasked with a more administrative role, while Saizana would be a general in the Aksumite army. The following is an excerpt from the traditional text, Gedla Abraha and Asbeha, translated by historian Sergio Habel Selassie.
It is emphasized that the 2 brothers ruled at the same time in unity. And according to this book, their father was called Tazina, and their mother, Sophia. The parents of the 2 brothers accepted monotheism. As they had no children, the people were anxious about the continuity of the Solomonic line, and some revolted against the king. After a long time, through prayer, the queen gave birth to twin sons. On the 8th day, the children were circumcised and named Azagwagwa, or Azgwagwa, meaning removal. After some years, they were placed in the temple of Aksum under the protection of the high priest, because the mother had vowed to dedicate them to God. The mother, named Ahayiwa, ruled for 3 years, and the brothers grew up in the temple. One day, Saint Michael appeared and told the high priest to crown the 2 brothers at once as joint rulers of the country. However, the high priest, Inbarem, refused on the grounds that it was not customary in Ethiopia for 2 kings to rule simultaneously. But the angel of God insisted that it was the will of God, and that the priest should comply. Inbarem gathered the people together and conveyed the message from the angel. Initially, the people opposed him, but they eventually agreed to follow the angel's command. Another difficulty arose immediately. The 2 children initially refused to ascend the throne, stating that as they were dedicated to God, they should devote their lives to serving him, and that it was against custom to have 2 kings. However, through the persuasion of the angel, they finally agreed to be crowned and to rule the country together.
Section 2, the Beja Rebellion. Early in the reign of Emperor Ezana, a significant rebellion erupted in the Beja territories, located in what is now northeastern Sudan. We know this uprising occurred during the early years of his rule because the inscription mentions pagan gods, references that ceased after his conversion to Christianity. While the exact causes of the Beja tribe's rebellion remain unclear, it is highly likely that the collapse of the Kushite Empire at Meroe, brought about by Ezana's father, led to increased instability in the northern periphery. The Kushitic kingdom had been a stabilizing force, especially in the northwestern Beja territories bordering Kush. With its fall, nomadic Beja warriors likely began pillaging the trade routes between Aksum and Egypt due to the power vacuum. These activities escalated into open rebellion, prompting Ezana to take action. He dispatched his twin brother, Saizana, and his younger brother, Adifan, to quell the uprising. The military campaign was successful, resulting in the defeat and displacement of the Beja tribes. According to records, 3,112 cattle, 6,224 sheep, and 677 beasts of burden, likely donkeys and horses, were relocated from their original habitats to Matlia, location unknown. Ezana claims that during this displacement, the inhabitants were provided with food and drink. Lastly, he dedicated his military victory to various deities, with Ares, the god of war, being foremost among them. The inscription detailing Ezana's conquest of the Beja is as follows:
Aizanas, king of the Aksumites, Himyarites and Raidan, the Ethiopians, the Sabaeans and Sile, Tiamo and the Beja and Kasu, king of kings, son of the invincible god Ares. When once the Beja tribe revolted, we sent our brothers Sazanan and Adephan to make war upon them, and when they came back, having made them submit, they led them to us with their entire horde and their animals, 3,112 cattle, 6,224 sheep, and 677 beasts of burden, feeding them with cattle, wheat, wine, mead, beer, and water to satiety during 4 months, amounting to 4,400 people, provisioned each day with 22,000 loaves, until I had changed their residence. These people who had been brought to us, after having granted them all that was necessary for them, having clothed them and changed their residence, we established them in a part of our territory called Matlia, and ordered that they be further provided there, giving to each kinglet 4,190 cattle, so that the 6 kinglets had 25,140 cattle. As a thank offering to the invincible Ares who begat me, we consecrated to him a statue of gold, 1 of silver, and 3 of bronze. I have consecrated this stele and dedicated it to heaven, the earth, and the invincible Ares who begat me. Should anyone wish to damage it, may the God of heaven and earth lead him to ruin, and his name cease to exist in the land of the living. In gratitude, this has been consecrated for well-being. Furthermore, we have consecrated to the invincible Ares.
Section 3, the Agaw Rebellion. During Emperor Ezana's reign, an inscription recounts his interaction with the king of the Agwazat, a group most likely referring to the Agaw people who inhabited the southwestern region of Aksum near Lasta. Initially, the Agaws, led by their king Abba Alkeo, travelled to Angabo to pay tribute to Emperor Ezana, offering camels, donkeys or horses, food, and possibly men and women. However, the situation took a dramatic turn on the 3rd day when the treachery of King Abba Alkeo was uncovered. In response, Ezana's forces acted swiftly. The town was pillaged, and Abba Alkeo was captured and humiliated by being chained naked to his throne. The capture of their king sparked uprisings among the Agaw people, leading to battles between Emperor Ezana's forces, particularly the armies named Mahaza and Metin of Emperor Ezana, battled the Agaw rebels. The inscription detailing these battles is as follows:
Ezana, son of Ela Amida, Bisi Halain, king of Aksum, Himyar, Raidan, Saba, Salhin, Tiamo, Beja, and of Kasu, king of kings, son of the invincible Mahorim. The Agwazat took the field and arrived at Angabo. There came to meet us Abba Alkeo, king of the Agwazat, with his tribe, and he brought tribute. And when later we arrived at Alia, the camp in the land of Atagaw, we obtained camels and beasts of burden, men, women, and provisions for 20 days. But the 3rd day after our arrival, since we recognized the perfidy of Abba Alkeo, we delivered the Agwazat who had come with their king to pillage, and those whom we plundered we bound. And as for Abba Alkeo, we left him naked and chained him to the bearer of his throne. We then ordered the column Mahaza and the commanders of the columns to march night and day. Then they sent the column Mahaza and the column Metin, and they were ordered to go and fight the Agwazat. Then they went to and arrived at Asala and came to Eric and took what they found. From there they came to the territory of Agada, where they killed and captured men and beasts. Then they sent the troop Dakan and ordered it to go by Seazot, and from the east they retired, and the carriers of water brought water, and the three columns Dakan, Hara, and Metin rallied at Adyabo. Then they sent the column Hara and ordered them to go towards Zawatudisan. And from there, for the third time, they sent the column Lakan and dispatched it and ordered it to proceed to Hasabo, and it left for the pass of Tuteho and descended the river and reached Lawa and descended towards Asia. And together they departed from Hezaba and camped it, and they entered and passed the night. And at dawn they attacked, followed to the mustering place of Magaro and the three columns, to the river, with Falha and Serah.
Section 4 is Ezana's conquest of the Afan. Another inscription from early in Emperor Ezana's reign before his conversion to Christianity records an expedition into the territory of the Afan. While the exact location of the Afan remains unknown, historian Sir Wallace Budge speculates that it lay at the southernmost edge of the Aksumite Empire. The campaign was triggered when a merchant caravan passing through the region was attacked by the local inhabitants. In response, Ezana launched a military campaign against the Sarayan people, who lived within the Afan kingdom. He deployed 3 of his seasoned armies, Mahaza, Dakuan, and Hara, that had recently seen action against the Agaws, indicating their elite status and combat experience. Upon arrival, Ezana's forces encountered several tribes. During the conflict, a leader named Attila, along with his children, was captured. Although Attila's precise identity remains uncertain, it is likely he was either the king of the Afan or held a significant position of authority within the kingdom. The campaign ended in a decisive victory for Emperor Ezana. Records detail that over 700 individuals were killed, more than 300 were taken prisoner, and substantial booty, including over 30,000 cattle and more than 800 donkeys and horses, was seized. After the successful campaign, Ezana returned safely to Aksum, where he commemorated his victory by establishing a celebratory throne. The concluding passages of the records pay tribute to the gods for their favour and issue a stern warning to any potential rebels, emphasising that any future insurrections would be swiftly and decisively crushed. The inscription detailing his conquests of the Afan are as follows:
Ezana, the son of Ella Amida, of the family of Halen, king of Aksum, and of Hemer, Himyar, and of Redan, and of Sab, and of Salhen, and of Seamo, and of Beja, and of Kasu, the son of Mahram, who cannot be conquered by the enemy. He made war on the Sarane, whose kingdom is Afan, after they had fought against us and killed a merchant caravan. And then we made war upon them. First of all, we sent armies, the army of Mahaza and the army of Dakuan and the army of Hara, and then we ourselves followed, and we encamped at the place where the troops were assembled in Alaha, and we made our soldiers set out from there, and they killed and made prisoners and despoiled them. And we attacked Sanye and Sawante and Gema and Zahtan, 4 peoples or tribes, and we took prisoner Alita with his 2 children, and a slaughter took place of the men of Afan 503 and women 202, in all 705. Of his camp followers there were taken prisoners, men 40, and women and children 165, in all 205. As spoil were carried off 31,900 sheep and 57 cattle, baggage animals 827. And the king returned in safety together with his people. And he set up a throne here in shadow, and committed himself to the protection of Astar and Beher, and Meder, the earth. If there be anyone who would overthrow him and remove him, that person and his land and his race shall be overthrown and removed, and he shall be rooted out of his country, and he, that is the king, offered as a thank offering to Mahram, who had begotten him 100 cattle and 50 prisoners.
Section 5. The Aksumite Empire's official adoption of Christianity. Between 330 and 340 AD, Emperor Ezana and his brother Saizana officially established Christianity as the state religion of the Aksumite Empire. Meanwhile, in the north, Constantine the Great had recently ascended to the throne of the Roman Empire, implementing transformative changes. Constantine's conversion to Christianity, his promotion of the faith throughout Roman society, and the establishment of Constantinople as the new capital marked a significant shift in the empire's religious landscape. However, Constantine adhered to Arianism, a belief among some early Christians that Jesus Christ was a created being by God, which implied a distinction between God, who is uncreated, and Jesus Christ, who was created. This theological stance led to considerable division within the early Christian community. Athanasius, the Archbishop of Alexandria, strongly opposed Arianism and had consecrated Frumentius as a bishop, a move that placed him in direct conflict with Emperor Constantine. As a result, Athanasius was replaced by George of Cappadocia, who was sympathetic to Arianism. The appointment of Frumentius as bishop by the ousted Athanasius became a point of contention for Constantine. In response, the emperor sent envoys to the Aksumites, demanding that Frumentius be re-examined theologically in Alexandria. However, the Aksumites refused, prompting Emperor Constantine to send the following letter.
Victor Constantius Maximus Augustus to Ezana and Saizana. It is our greatest care and study, as God knows, I think in fact in such things for all the human race, to lead them to a knowledge of God, transforming life by hope, and in nothing dissenting in respect of the search for the just and the true. I consider it right to assign to you the same treatment as to the Romans, and the duty to use the identical doctrine in the Church. Therefore, send Bishop Frumentius as quickly as possible to Egypt, to the most honorable Bishop George and the other bishops in Egypt, who have the authority to ordain and to judge affairs of this nature. You in fact know and understand, though you pretend to be ignorant, you alone, of what is well noted by all, that Frumentius was promoted to his rank by Athanasius, who is guilty of 1,000 crimes which cannot be justified by any of the pretenses of the accused, and has today been deposed from his office, and is not found in any locality where it is possible to live. He goes as a vagabond from one region to another, almost as a fugitive criminal. If Frumentius spontaneously obeys and renders account of the whole state of the case, and in every way manifests that he has in no wise broken away from the law of the Church and of the faith it holds, and when he has been judged, having rendered an account of his whole life, and has furnished explanations to those who are competent to judge questions of this nature, it will be decided by them whether he is worthy to be considered a true bishop and to be ordained according to the law. If he prefers to procrastinate and to hide from justice, it will be evident that, seduced by the villainous Athanasius, he feels impiously toward God and is infected like those already declared infected, and is culpable. If Athanasius has the temerity to come to Aksum, he will not only corrupt you with his abominable and impious discourses, he will also confound and disturb the Church, blaspheming against God, and even more, he will be the author of the slaughter and ruin of the entire nation. But I am certain that the same Frumentius, informed of many things, will achieve great utility for the public good by consorting with the most venerable George, and with the others of the first rank who are gifted in such teaching, and that he will return to his seat highly instructed in all things ecclesiastical. God keep you, most honorable brothers.
Section 6. Ezana's wars against the rebellious Kushites and Nubians. The final military campaign inscribed by Emperor Ezana stands out for its scale and its distinctly Christian character. Unlike earlier inscriptions that credited victories to pagan gods, this one attributes the triumph to a singular god, clearly referencing the Christian deity. This shift reflects the Aksumite Empire's recent adoption of Christianity. The inscription details Ezana's war against the inhabitants of the former Meroitic kingdoms, specifically the Noba, Nubians, and the Kushites. He begins by honouring the Lord of Heaven, underscoring the central role of Christianity in his rule. This campaign is depicted as a direct response to provocations and insults from the Noba, who had mocked the Aksumites, boasting they would never cross the Takaz River, a key boundary between modern-day Sudan and the Eritrea region. The Noba had also repeatedly attacked the Mangurto, Kasa, and Baria tribes. While the identities of the Mangurto and Kasa remain uncertain, the Baria are recognized as the Nara people of southwestern Eritrea. Ezana notes that the Noba targeted both blacks and reds, likely referring to Nilotic peoples and Kushites or Semitized Kushites. When Aksumite envoys were sent to investigate these complaints, they were met with harassment, looting, and even murder, flagrantly disregarding diplomatic norms and giving Ezana a clear mandate for a military response. The inscription describes how Ezana led his forces to the Takazi River and the fort of Kamalka, achieving a swift victory as the defenders fled. Ezana's army pursued them relentlessly for 23 days, capturing prisoners and seizing significant loot, including copper, food supplies, iron statues, and various treasures. Executions were carried out along the Nile's tributary, and Aksumite soldiers raided and sank Noba boats. Ezana's forces captured two Noba chiefs, Yasaka and Butala, who were discovered acting as spies. He declared his authority by establishing a throne in the conquered Kushite region and recorded taking over 600 captives, killing 700 enemies and seizing more than 60,000 animals. Ezana concludes by offering gratitude to the Lord of Heaven for the victory and issuing a stern warning to any who might consider rebellion. The inscription detailing these conquests is as follows:
"By the power of the Lord of Heaven, who in heaven and upon the earth is mightier than everything which exists, Ezana, the son of Ela Amida, a native of Halan, king of Aksum and of Himyar, and of Radan, and of Sabah, and of Salhen, and of Seamo, and of Beja, and of Kasu, king of kings, the son of Ela Amida, who is invincible to the enemy. By the might of the Lord of Heaven, who hath made me Lord, who to all eternity the perfect one reigns, who is invincible to the enemy, no enemy shall stand before me, and after me no enemy shall follow. By the might of the Lord of all, I made war upon Noba, for the peoples of Noba had rebelled and had made a boast of it, and they, that is the Aksumites, will not cross the river Takaze, said the peoples of Noba. And they were in the habit of attacking the peoples of Mangurto, and Kasa, and Baria, and the blacks, and of making war upon the red peoples. And twice and thrice had they broken their solemn oaths, and had killed their neighbors mercilessly, or without sufficient reason. And they had stripped bare and stolen the properties of our deputies and messengers, which I had sent to them to inquire into their thefts, and had stolen from them their weapons of defense. And as I had sent warnings to them, and they would not hearken to me, and they refused to cease from their evil deeds, and heaped abuse upon me, and then betook themselves to flight, I made war upon them. And I rose up in the might of the Lord of the land, that is God, and I fought with them on the Takaze, at the ford of Kamalki. Thereupon they took to flight, and would not make a stand. And I followed after the fugitives for 23 days, killing some, and making prisoners others, and capturing spoil wherever I tarried. Prisoners and spoil my people who had marched into the country brought back to me. Meanwhile I burnt their towns, both those built of brick and those built of reeds, and my soldiers carried off its food, and its copper, and its iron, and its brass, and they destroyed the statues or pictures of their houses, that is, temples, and the treasuries of food, and the cotton trees, and cast them into the river Sida. And there were many men who died in the water, their number being unknown to me. And they, that is, the soldiers, sunk their ships in the river whilst crowded with people, there being on them both women and men. And I captured 2 chieftains, -2, who had come as spies riding on she-camels, and their names were Yasaka and Butali. And I captured an Angabe Nawi nobleman, and these died, the chieftains Danoko, Dagale, Anako, Hawari, Karkara their lord, that is, priest, whom the soldiers had wounded. And they took away from him a kedada of silver and a small case made of gold. The chieftains who died were 5, -5, and 1 priest. And I came to Kasu, and I fought a battle, and made prisoners of its people at the junction of the rivers Sida and Takaze. And the day after I arrived, I sent out to raid the country, the army Mahaza, and the army Hara, and Damawa, and Falha, and Serah, upstream of Sida, and the cities built of brick and those of reeds. The names of the cities built of bricks were Alwe and Daro, and they killed and captured prisoners and cast people into the water, and they returned safe and sound, having terrified their enemies and conquered them by the might of the Lord of the land. And after that, I sent the army of Halen, and the army of Larkin, and the army of Sabarat, and Falha and Serah down the Sida, against the towns of Noba, which are made of reeds, 4 towns Negus. The towns built of bricks which the Noba had taken were Tabito, Ai, and Fertot. And my peoples arrived at the frontier of the Red Noba, and they returned safe and sound, having captured prisoners and slain the Noba, and taken spoil from them by the might of the Lord of heaven. And I planted, that is set up, a throne in that country at the place where the rivers Sida and Takaze join opposite the town, with brick houses which wall the island. The things which has given me the Lord of heaven are men captives 214, women captives 415, total of captives 629, men slain 602, women and children slain 156, total of slain 700, and total of prisoners, and slain 1387. The spoil: cattle 10,560, sheep 51,050. And I planted, that is set up, a throne here in shadow, by the might of the Lord of heaven, who has helped me and given me sovereignty. May the Lord of heaven make strong my kingdom. And as he has this day conquered for me, my enemy may he conquer for me wheresoever I go. And as he has this day conquered for me, and has overthrown for me my enemy, I will rule the people with righteousness and justice, and will not oppress them. And may they preserve or keep in safety this throne which I have planted, that is set up for the Lord of heaven, who has made me king, and the earth which carries it. And if there be any one who shall remove it, and destroy it, and overthrow it, he and his kinsfolk shall be rooted out, shall be removed from the land, and be rooted out. And I have planted, that is set up, this throne by the might of the Lord of heaven.
In conclusion, Emperor Ezana and Saizana were transformative leaders whose reigns profoundly impacted the Aksumite Empire and the broader Habesha history and culture. Their most notable achievement was the official adoption of Christianity, a decision that fundamentally shaped the cultural and religious identity of the Habesha people and surrounding communities. This significant shift not only redefined the internal structure of the Aksumite Empire, but also influenced historical developments for over 2 millennia. For their remarkable contributions to consolidating the Aksumite Empire, suppressing rebellions, and championing Christianity, Ezana and Saizana are venerated as saints in both the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church and the Eritrean Orthodox Tewahedo Church. Their legacies endure, honoured for establishing the foundation upon which Christianity thrived, shaping the region's identity for centuries to come. Their names as saints are as follows: Emperor Ezana, whose saint name is Ezana Abreha, meaning Ezana, the one who brought light; Emperor Saizana, saint name Saizana Asbeha, meaning Saizana, the one who brought about the dawn. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, suggestions or improvements, please post them in the forum linked in the bio below or in the comments. As always, subscribe if you enjoyed the documentary,